Alright, so this is the Thalin and Tidefall introduction. This is for a D&D campaign I'm running, and instead of just giving this in session 0, I decided to record it so my players can just watch it on their own time. So if you find this and you're confused, that's why. Alright, this is Thalin, and then this is a very quickly drawn Tidefall. This is to scale, though Tidefall is way over here. So you can see this is actually where they are on the map. This line represents 1 week of travel. So this is about 3 months of travel. This is about 1 week of travel. In this video, I'm just going to be focusing on the history of Thalin, because about 300 years ago, Tidefall was discovered by Thalin. This is present-day Thalin, and in 415 is where we're at. And we're going to be using a history book that Eric, the king of Carthage, ordered to be made and paid for. So we'll be starting in the year 2173 PC, which is pre-Carthage. And Franktown was first established at this point, and most scholars believe that actually Tidefall discovered Thayin and colonized it, and then we are now recolonizing our own colonizers, basically. And they slowly expanded. Thalin then, at this point, isn't the continent, it's just a kingdom. And before we settled here, there were ice trolls. And I just want to show you guys kind of the landscape. So this is tectonic plates. I don't know how tectonic plates work. This one should probably continue. Who knows? I watched a video that said you should do this in world building to plan out your mountains. So those brown spots are mountains. If you don't like them, too bad. And then there are the rivers. And you can see that they're flowing down. And basically the places where you see rocks are the highest elevation, and then it goes down from there. So we have the ice trolls in the north, and Thalin, a kingdom expanding in the south. And this goes on for about 400 more years until the ice trolls attack in the first ice war. And their main forces march through the pass in the mountains and strike, and then they also strike from the sea. And it's about 20 years, and the ice trolls win. And they dominate for a long time, but in 1584, Varnskar breaks away from Thalin and starts a new kingdom in the south. Thalin is underneath the ice trolls at this point, basically serving them. A few hundred years later, almost a 1,000 years, whatever that is, we have a couple unique things. Varnskar has split into 2 kingdoms, Varn and Skar, and Thalin has remained mostly the same, but the ice trolls have dominated most of the territory, and Thalin begins to rebel. That's why their name is back in pink, and we have the Second Ice War. This begins in 942 PC, and then a few years later, in 924, though it doesn't look like I updated my date, the Varn and Skar join, and with their together help of the Varn, Skar, and Thalin, they actually push back the ice trolls. And this is the new map in 915 PC. Thalin controls so much of the main territory. Skar has expanded a little bit. And this was for a lot of reasons, but one was just they had been fighting before Varn Skar joined, and they were just closer and gobbled up a lot of that ice troll land. So at 9:15 at the tail end, the first council began, where they would all meet at this city and Scar, Varn, and Thalin. But just a few years in 908, Varn and Scar were kicked out of the council, and actually Thalin tried to conquer Varn. Their people migrated north with help of Scar protecting them to these islands up here. And you can see Scar is actually pushed back a little bit as well into this. And they're kicked out of the council. So now Thalin is basically just its own kingdom. In 850, we have Solthis, which breaks away from Thalin in the south. And at this point, just a few things about this. If you're below this line, your soil is much fertile and you can produce food better than above. Not that you can't above, but this in the future will make Solthis very wealthy because they control much of the crops. And this war is, I don't know why it says 31. It's 800 because this takes them about 800 years to settle in this place. So Solthis breaks away and then takes all this in about 800 years. And then in 32 PC, we have Eric the Immortal, the one who requested that this history be told, is born. His enemies call him Eric the Deathless. His followers call him Eric the Immortal. He's born in the capital of Thalin, and he becomes pretty popular as an adventurer, and it does deep dives into ice troll domains, plundering and just making a name for himself. And then in 0, and then it was PC because it was pre-Carthane, so now it's just the time. Carthane was founded by Eric. He established the capital right here, which is Red Ember, right next to this mountain, which is actually a volcano. At this point, Eric is very aggressive towards Thalin, and just a few years later, he attacks in 5, and then in 76, after a drawn-out war, he has conquered the west portion of Thalin, and Thalin is pushed over. Then he is also, Solthis pays him tribute every year because they don't want to be attacked. They're not really the best warriors, unlike Carthane. So in 98, a few things. After Carthane conquers this territory, they also come over here to this island and conquer it, which leads to Tidefall being discovered in 98. So you can't see it on this map, but Tidefall was discovered by some Carthane adventurers. No one knows why they knew about it, but they did. And we're going to visit Tidefall another time. So just a few years later, in 139, the Third Ice War begins. The Ice Trolls begin attacking Carthane and Thalin. And this lasts for about 3 years, when then everyone joins in. So Solthis, Carthane, Varn, Scar, and Thalin all join together to fight back the Ice Trolls. It ends with Carthane forcing the Ice Trolls to build him a wall that you can see here to make it so that there's never a fourth ice war. In this battle, when they win, Carthane takes more territory, which doesn't make any of the other people happy, but they do start a council when the war ends in 142, and in 222 the council dissolves. Var and Scar never really showed up anyway, and Solthis and thalin were just getting trampled by Carthane, demanding things. So it dissolves. It wasn't really doing anything. Then in 287 to 318, we have the War of Carthane and Thalin, finishing what Eric began 200 years ago and conquering Thalin. This results in Varskar, which we can see when the council disperses, they actually come together as one kingdom, though Var is still really here and Scar is down here, and then they meet here. Var-Scar meets here to plan. And then we have, so Carthay attacks Thalin, conquers, and then this makes Solthis and Var-Scar react, pushing back against Carthane. And then in 397, you have Eric and the Ice Trolls signing an agreement to an alliance, actually. And that results in this, where the Ice Trolls push down as Carthane retreated out of here to let the Ice Trolls in. Varn got a stronghold here behind the river in the mountains. And that is where we are today. The Ice Trolls are fighting with Carthane against Varnscar and Solthis. So yeah,